Okay, we are with Wolf or Wolf Hoffmann from Accept uh, to speak about Accept's new album Humanoid.
Brilliant.
And to tell you the truth, although it's definitely an Accept album, um, I had
You
more.
should always tell the you should always tell the truth.
Yeah. You should. I I had a better time than the last two albums listening to it. I think
Interesting.
it sounds more fresh this time.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. And do you feel first that Humanoid concept-wise is a continuation of Metal Heart?
Yes and no. I mean, it wasn't meant to be like that. We did not go out and say, okay, we're going to make a concept album. We did not say we're going to make a follow-up album to Metal Heart. Basically, we just wrote a bunch of songs, and one of the songs was called Humanoid because I found that idea interesting and I liked the word. It sounded good. And then when all the songs were finished, it was kind of an obvious choice for a song album title because it's what everybody is thinking about right now with AI and technology. And then, of course, you think like, oh my God, we've done this already once years ago with the song Metal Heart, and that's in a way the modern version of Metal Heart, because back then it was the idea that people have a heart out of of mechanical components like a metal heart, and nowadays it's all electronics and things. So we with the concept is that man and machine, but much more developed
Yeah,
into today's age.
2.0.
Yeah, 2.0, exactly.
Metal Heart 2.0, yeah. How do you feel AI has changed music? Have you experimented in using AI in music or lyrics, especially in lyrics, perhaps from the time that Gabby has retired from writing lyrics?
I have not really, no. I mean, I haven't, I personally don't write many lyrics anyhow, but I have to admit I've been on this website and just did it for fun, and it's pretty scary. It's pretty good. I mean, luckily we have an amazing guy in the band who writes lyrics, Mark Tonillo, and also Martin Motnick writes some really good lyrics, and they don't both do not need AI. But my God, if you just even with music, it's amazing how good it is. I have to really say. I mean, it's crazy. It's really scary how good some of the visual art or the music or the lyrics are. It's crazy. But we didn't use any of it, no.
Yeah. It's not a matter of using it; it's a matter of experimenting just to know what uh, what can be done with
Sure.
this.
Yeah. And I guess in the future it's gonna be a thing where people just start using it because it's like everything else with technology. When it's out there and it works and it's convenient, people are gonna use it.
And I
There's
don't
no
know.
doubt in my mind. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of people are already using it, of course, for
yeah,
visual art for sure.
and I don't know if we will be able to distinguish between AI written music and man written music.
Probably it's going to be very hard to do. I imagine, and I'm not so worried that people start cloning our music, and I'm also not very worried that metal fans or Accept fans will forget about Accept just because AI is there. But I am worried for the industry in general and for music bands and new artists that, I mean, if you think about how difficult it is to create songs and how difficult it is to learn how to play and how many years of practice you need and how much money and time you have to invest if you wanted to be in a band, if you wanted to be out there as an artist. And now you can just skip that whole thing and just press a button, and in 30 seconds you say, there's your song. Why should I even play it myself? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm worried about. And I'm also worried that fans in the future or music listeners might not even care where it's coming from. Maybe the kids in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years are going to say, I mean, you might say to your kid one day, But it's not real. It's not real. It's a machine. And your kid might say, but Daddy, I don't care. I don't care. So that's what I'm
I'm
worried
just
about.
listening to it right now. I'm just listening to it right now. That
Yeah,
would be every kid's answer.
yeah, it could be, you know.
There are quite a few people questioning the fact that many of your peers or even younger bands do not have many original members in their lineup.
Yeah.
If you search, and you will see that almost all the bands have only one or two original members, but that's another case. how does it feel to be the only survivor? But also how it helps you to have younger members in the band. Does it rejuvenate you?
Yeah, it does. Of course it does. And it doesn't feel, I don't really know how it feels, because this is, I wish we would still, do I wish we would still all be together from when we were 16 years old? Yeah, of course, because it's convenient and you don't have to go through the effort of changing members. But real life is what it is. And I have no other choice but to continue alone. I see it almost as my role. I'm the captain of the ship only because I've never left that ship, if you know what I mean. Everybody else jumped overboard at one point or another. And I thought, what do we do? Do we just, stop the whole ship? No, we want to keep going. And this is the only way that I know how to do it. So I'm by default become somewhat of the captain of the ship now. And yeah, we have got some great new members in the band, and I think the band is actually better than it ever was in a long time. So I mean, we're having a ball. But yeah, it's sad reality that at a certain point, after a certain length of career, there's no longer many original members left in many bands.
Yeah, in
It's
many bands. It's not only Accept. It's many
right,
bands, and bands with half of your career have
right.
have
But look at it. I mean, I always say, take any company, take any sports team, take any orchestra, and people are going to change. It's normal. But for some reason, in a metal band, you're supposed to be a band of brothers that never leaves. It's a dream that's not real. You know what I mean?
AI.
It's almost AI. Yeah, it's just like not.
It's
Yeah,
not possible. It's not possible. It's
it's
like even having in rock hard, let's say, the same editors for 30 years. It's impossible.
yeah, it's almost impossible.
I
Yeah,
wish I would have all these people that I've been working with,
yeah,
but it's impossible. Times are changing.
yeah, exactly.
Being the sole writer of music in Accept, how do you think it affects the songwriting? For example, I read a recent interview of Peter Baltes, who said that he felt that Accept was writing the same album with different lyrics. Do you think that this thing said has to do with you being the only songwriter in Accept for many years?
Let me say one thing about all this. Have you ever heard an ex-member of any band say anything other than that? Have you ever heard anybody who has left the band not bad-mouthing the other band? Have you ever heard him say anything positive about the times that they've spent together? No, it's normal. They leave the band and they start, so I'm not going to comment on that. I think the albums will have to speak for themselves.
Hmm?
And here's how we work actually as a band. Today is no different from 10 years ago to 30 years ago. We know it's time to make a new album, and we need new songs. And I say to the guys in the band, hey guys, do you have any ideas? Let me hear the songs. If you have any songs, have you written any songs? Please submit them so we can hear them. And most guys never submit anything. It's the way it is. On this album, Uwe Lulis has submitted several songs. One of them turned out to be great, Frankenstein. And then Martin Motnik contributed some lyrics. And yes, it's true. I write the rest of the songs, but somebody has to do it. So it's me. And does it
It's
all
not a
sound?
dirty job. It's not a dirty job that someone has to do it.
No, and I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining how it is. It's
Yeah,
it's the way it is,
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
think it works okay. I mean, the last two albums have been great, I think. So people have been, I mean, fans have to be the judge. If it's all the same and people don't like it, then I accept that. But I don't let ex-members be the
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 judges.
judge, the judges. I let the fans tell me what's good or bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Classical music has always been an integral part of your guitar playing.
Hmm.
Having these classical passages in your songs, is it something that comes naturally or do you do that on purpose?
I do it a little on purpose, but I also write a lot of melodies that sound classical. They aren't really classical.
Yeah,
I've written so many little melodies and licks and things like that that sound very classical, but they aren't really classical. But yeah, if I haven't, sometimes I do it if I use something from Beethoven or Mozart or Tchaikovsky. Of course, I do that on purpose. It just doesn't happen
yeah,
by
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 accident, yeah.
by accident. No.
Ravages of Time is a kind of song that is somehow autobiographical as it describes what you have done throughout your career.
Yeah.
Do you think that the end of Accept is near and it just felt like doing it?
No. I felt like doing it, but the end of Accept is nowhere near because I don't want to retire. I'm not gonna. I mean, I always say I want to die on stage, and I really mean it. I really want to do this as long as I possibly can. And so I have no plans of ever retiring. No, I mean, we're going to keep going as long as we can, for sure. And yeah, Ravages of Time, it was just an idea that I had when I was sitting here writing songs. And that was just, I came up with this nice little melody. That's the intro for the song. And then I thought, well, could this be, what could this be? Could this be maybe a ballad type song for Mark to sing? And then what could it be about? And I thought, well, shit, I am 64 years old and I've been doing this since I was 16 and this is my life. And I'm thinking like, I still feel like I'm 16 years old in my mind, but I know I'm not I'm not 16 anymore. And I'm just wondering how much longer it might be possible to do this. I hope it can go on forever, but as it says in the lyrics, nothing is forever.
Yeah,
That's all. It's just a bit of an honest contemplation of where you are in life. It's got really nothing to do
yeah.
with accept so much. It's just a personal observation. I mean, I'm sure you have similar thoughts sometimes.
Yeah, and of course, I haven't met a single musician that says that he wants to retire. However, I have to say that when we were younger, uh, let's say you were younger and you were playing in Accept in the 80s, um, you you saw musicians being 35 or 40 years old, and you were describing them as old men.
I know. And here's another funny thing. No, no. When I started playing guitar, and I remember I came to my parents and said, I don't really want to go to university, guys. I don't want. This is not my life. I want to be a musician, a professional musician. And my parents both said, but you can't do this when you're past 30. You know, nobody can be. This is just for young people. You cannot be old and be on stage and play rock music. It's impossible. And it dawned on me that in those days when this was in the 70s, yeah, the Rolling Stones were barely 30 years old, you know. And the idea that one day the Stones would be 80 and years old
And
and still be
playing.
doing it, that was impossible to think. So there was nobody that I couldn't tell to my parents, yeah, but listen, there's such and such out there still doing it. Nobody was. It was a young industry. It was just for young people. So it's crazy how it has changed. And the idea that I would still be 50 years later, be on stage and playing heavy metal, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's very funny because I think about what we were thinking in the 80s, watching, let's say, Black Sabbath releasing
Right.
albums in the late 80s and the early 90s and say, these are old men. How do they play?
But they were
They were 40 years old.
yeah, if that. Yeah, I remember touring with Ozzy Osbourne in the 80s, yeah. And but this is Ozzy Osbourne. He's always been a little, but I thought, God, he's such an old man. He's still out there doing it, he was probably not even 40 back then.
Um, with, do you feel that somehow Andy Snip is a member of Accept, as he has been with you producing your albums from Blood of the Nations? Did you ever think about going to a different producer just to change your perspective about music?
No, because never change a winning team. I mean, it works great with Andy. There's nothing that I would want to change. I mean, I love the sound that we're getting. I love the songs we're creating together. I love everything about it. So there's nothing I would say, well, I wish we would have a better producer. No, never. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it feels like he's a bit of a family member at this point. I mean, we don't see each other very much. I mean, every 2 or 3 years we get together and make an album, and other than that, I'll just talk to him on the phone quite frequently, or we text each other about gear and hey man, how's it going, kind of thing. But other than that, and this is beautiful. When we do get together, it's always like, there was no time. I'm sure you know the feeling when you haven't seen somebody in a while. I think especially men, we sort of have this silent understanding. We don't have to, women always have to call each other every weekend and hey, how's it going? And they talk about all these. Men don't do that kind of stuff. We just sort of check in with each other once in a while, and it's almost like time hasn't passed. We pick up where we left off right away.
When did you change record label from Nuclear Blast to Napalm? Did you feel that your circle with Nuclear Blast reached an end? And
Yeah.
perhaps they were more interested in newer bands, in more extreme
No,
bands, perhaps?
no, it wasn't that. It was just that the Nuclear Blast label was sold to a big corporation, and things have changed dramatically. When we signed up with Nuclear Blast, they were a family-operated business and a sort of it felt like a fan-based family that were very into heavy metal, and like, yeah, you could feel that spirit in the company, even though it was a very successful company. It wasn't a big CBS or Warner Brothers or anything like it. It was a German company, and they're only metal, and it was perfect. And then uh, 2 or 3, 4 years ago, they sold it to a big corporation that bought them up, like, and it was said nothing would change, but of course everything changed. Everybody that we knew had left, so it was time for us to think about a different label. And right at that point, Napalm came in, and so far they seem to be doing an excellent job and everything we had hoped for. So we're very happy with Napalm so far.
Which is the riskiest decision you ever had to take about Accept? For example, was it taking David Rees as your singer? Was it
Yeah.
disbanding in the 90s? Was it touring as support act to Sabaton?
No, the biggest thing is usually changing lead singers. That is the big one. And after it didn't work out with David Rees in the 90s, then to come back with a new singer against all odds and be successful, that was really almost the impossible achievement. And yeah, that was definitely a big thing for us to decide we're going to start the band again. But I tell you what, at the time in 2009 or whenever it was that we met Mark, I was so sure that this is going to work. And I was so sure because I said to myself, it's either that or nothing. Here's the perfect guy. And the other one, Udo said he wasn't interested, and he had his own band. He was never going to play with us again, blah, blah, blah. So we said, we have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
It's a big risk, but on the other hand, it's not, because it's either that or nothing at all. So that's why we made that jump. But it's definitely one of the hardest things to do in the music business, is to come back with a new voice as a lead singer. And that it worked out as well as it did is still a bit of a miracle sometimes.
Mm-hmm. You have 17 albums out and you
Mm.
exist for 45 plus years.
Yeah.
And you are going on tour now. You're going to play in Greece as well with Bruce
Yeah.
Dickinson and Judas Priest. That's fantastic day. How do you pick the songs that you are going to play live? Do you
I
see
don't know.
do you see that the younger generation is more into songs like Kool-Aid or Blood of the Nations, and the older ones in age are stuck in the 80s?
I don't know, stuck in the 80s, but I'm definitely, there's a bit of that, fans who have followed us for many years, they always would like to hear the old stuff for sure, because it reminds them of when they were younger, and it's normal. I have the same thing. If I want to go see Deep Purple, they better play Smoke on the Water, because that's the song I know more than anything. That's the song I grew up with. So I surely want to hear that, and I can totally understand that. But I think you're right in the point that I would say our last 6 albums were so successful and so consistent in a way, and a lot of fans just know us from from this material. So I think we're almost at the point where we could think about doing some special shows, headline shows, where we just play new material. But at festivals, it's not 100% accept audience. There's some fans just for Judas Priest. There's going to be some fans just for Bruce Dickinson, and they probably have heard of Accept. But so we gotta at festivals we usually play a different set list than we do for headline shows, just because it's a different type audience.
So what should we expect from the Accept show in Greece?
Only the best.
Only the best. the thing
No,
is that the thing is that you have at least 20 best of songs, so it must be very hard to choose from.
it is a bit, but it's a luxury problem to have, and I haven't. Sometimes I sit down and make the set list last minute. I don't usually sometimes usually the day of the show. Actually, I'll just put together a set list, because sometimes we feel like playing a different song, or sometimes we play like, oh, let's do this one again, and then we'll just change the set list
This is
according.
what I call first world problems.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wolf, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, nice talking with you, my friend.